You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to tell a single soul. Because here's what Machiavelli understood that most people will never admit. The loudest person in the room is never the most dangerous one. The ones who are truly rising, they go quiet. They disappear into their work. They stop explaining themselves. They stop defending themselves. And then one day, the world turns around and starts asking, where did they come from? That's not luck. That's strategy. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact psychological principles Machiavelli laid out centuries ago. Principles so sharp, so cold, so precise, that if you apply even half of them, your life will never look the same. Comment the word silent below if you're ready to become someone the world can't ignore. And if no one's told you to subscribe yet, do it now. Because what's coming next in this video, you cannot afford to miss a single second. Stay, watch, transform. The world rewards silence, not noise. Let me ask you something honest. Think about the most successful person you know personally. Not the one who talks the most at the dinner table. Not the one flooding their Instagram with motivational quotes at 2 a.m. Not the one constantly telling everyone about the business they're about to start. No. Think about the one who just moved differently. The one who was always working while others were always talking about working. The one who showed up one day and suddenly had everything. Now think about this. Did that person announce their growth? Did they perform it for you? Did they ask for your validation? No. They didn't. And Machiavelli, one of the most misunderstood minds in human history, understood exactly why. In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote something that most people skim past because it makes them uncomfortable. He said that a man who advertises his intentions invites resistance. A man who moves in silence invites opportunity. See, here's the brutal truth about human nature that nobody wants to say out loud. People don't celebrate your growth. They fear it. When you announce that you're leveling up, people don't cheer for you. They start calculating. They start watching for your failure. They start hoping, quietly, privately, that you fall flat. Not because they're evil, but because your rise is a mirror. And most people hate mirrors. So what do? You disappear. You stop narrating your journey. You stop updating the group chat. You stop posting the grinding at midnight stories. You go dark. You go internal. You go silent. And you build. The world can't sabotage what the world can't see. That's not pessimism. That's Machiavellian precision. The psychology of being underestimated. Now, I want you to sit with this idea for a moment, because this one changed everything for me. Being underestimated is not an insult, it is a weapon. Machiavelli observed that the greatest commanders in history didn't win because they were the biggest or the loudest or the most feared before the battle began. They won because their enemies miscalculated them. When people underestimate you, they lower their guard. They stop watching you closely. They stop feeling threatened by you. And while they're looking elsewhere, focused on whoever is making the most noise, you are moving. Think about water. Water doesn't announce that it's going to carve the canyon. It doesn't hold a press conference. It doesn't post updates. It just keeps moving, steady, patient, relentless, until one day the stone is gone and the canyon is there. You want to be water. Here's what most people do instead. They seek recognition before they've earned power. They need people to know they're working hard. They need someone to see the sacrifice. They need the validation to keep going. And that need, that hunger for recognition before results, it is the single biggest thing that keeps people small. Because when you seek approval from the outside world, you hand your power to the outside world. Machiavelli said it differently. He said that a prince who relies on the words of others will fall the moment those words stop. Your confidence cannot rent space in someone else's opinion. It has to own property inside of you. So the next time someone overlooks you, smile. Not because you're weak, but because you understand something they don't. You are exactly where you need to be, invisible, building, dangerous. The art of strategic withdrawal. This is the part that sounds counterintuitive, but stay with me. Machiavelli talked extensively about the concept of fortuna and virtù, roughly translated as luck and personal power. But here's what most people miss. He wasn't saying luck doesn't exist. He was saying that the prepared person is the one who catches luck when it arrives. And preparation requires one thing above everything else: withdrawal. Not weakness, not running away. Strategic, intentional withdrawal from noise, from distraction, from people who drain your energy, from conversations that go nowhere, from social obligations that serve someone else's ego but starve your purpose. Think about every time you've had a breakthrough, a real one, a moment where something clicked, a decision that changed the direction of your life. I'll bet it didn't happen at a party. It didn't happen while you were scrolling. It didn't happen in the middle of a long argument that went in circles. It happened in quiet, in solitude, in a moment where the outside world faded and something inside of you got loud enough to hear. Machiavelli understood that the person who cannot be alone with their own thoughts will always be controlled by someone else's thoughts. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Some of the people in your life, people you love, people who mean well, they are unconsciously keeping you small. Not out of malice, out of comfort, because your stillness threatens their movement, because your silence makes them question their noise, because your growth asks a question of them that they're not ready to answer. So they pull you back into the group, back into the drama, back into the chaos, back into the conversation about people who aren't in the room. And every time you go back, you lose ground. Strategic withdrawal means you protect your time like it is the last resource you have, because it is. You can make more money. You cannot make more time. Withdraw, rebuild, return, but only when you're ready. Only when you've built something that makes the room go quiet when you walk in. The power of results over reputation. Here's a mistake I see constantly, and it's painful to watch because it's so avoidable. People work harder on their image of success than on success itself. They buy the car before they build the business. They post the quote about discipline before they've built the habit. They craft the personal brand before they've built the personal foundation. Machiavelli was brutal on this point. He wrote that it is better to be feared than loved. But what he was really saying, underneath that shocking line, was something deeper. It is better to be real than to be liked, because love built on performance collapses the moment the performance ends. But respect built on results, that is permanent. That follows you. That walks into every room before you do. Your reputation should be a byproduct of your work, not the goal of it. The people who chase reputation put the cart before the horse. They're selling a product they haven't made yet. And eventually, people notice. The image cracks. The gap between who they perform as and who they actually are becomes too wide to bridge. But the person who focuses on results, who quietly stacks wins, solves real problems, delivers real value, their reputation builds itself, without effort, without performance, without needing to tell a single story. The world starts telling the story for them. That is the Machiavellian endgame, not to be impressive, to be undeniable, the rule of selective visibility. Now, and this is crucial, silence doesn't mean invisibility forever. Machiavelli was a strategist, not a monk. He didn't advocate for hiding forever. He advocated for timing. There is a moment to withdraw. There is a moment to appear. And the person who masters timing masters power. Think about every great entrance you've ever witnessed. A person walks into a room and something shifts. The energy changes. People straighten up. Conversations pause. Eyes move. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because the person chose, deliberately, when to become visible. They were strategic about what they revealed, when they revealed it, and to whom. Machiavelli called this the economy of presence. When you are everywhere, you are worth nothing. When you are rare, you are worth everything. This applies to social media. This applies to social circles. This applies to professional environments. The person who responds to every message instantly, who is always available, always present, always reachable, signals to the world that their time has no value. The person who responds deliberately, who appears when they choose to appear, signals something entirely different. They signal that their presence is a gift, not a given. And here's the fascinating psychological mechanism behind this. When people can't fully access you, they think about you more. They wonder about you. They become curious. They start reaching out more, not less. They start valuing what they can't predict. You become interesting, not because you performed interest, but because you withheld availability, building the fortress within. Machiavelli wrote at length about fortresses, literal ones, stone walls, moats, military defenses. But the deeper reading, the one that matters for your life, is about the internal fortress, the psychological structure you build inside yourself that no external force can collapse. Let me tell you what most people are missing. They are building their lives on sand, on other people's approval, on circumstances they cannot control, on relationships that were never built to hold the weight they're carrying, on jobs that could vanish tomorrow, on identities that belong to someone else's definition of success. And when any one of those things shifts, and they always shift, the whole structure shakes. Machiavelli's answer to this was not to build better sandcastles. It was to find bedrock. Your bedrock is your skill set, your discipline, your ability to think clearly under pressure, your ability to work without applause, your ability to sit in discomfort and stay anyway, your ability to lose and come back. These things cannot be taken from you. A recession cannot touch your ability to think. A betrayal cannot touch your ability to work. A failure cannot touch your ability to learn. When you build your fortress on these things, you become genuinely untouchable. Not because nothing bad will ever happen. Things will happen. Loss will happen. Failure will happen, but you won't break. And the person who doesn't break is the person who ultimately wins. Not the smartest person, not the most talented, the one who simply refused, over and over and over again, to stay down. That is the fortress, and it is built in silence, in private, in the hours nobody sees, in the work nobody applauds. Build it anyway, the moment the world comes looking. And now, this is where everything comes together. There will be a moment. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive on schedule, but it comes. The moment when the phone starts ringing more than you're calling. When people you once had to chase are now reaching out first. When opportunities find you instead of you hunting them. When the world, slowly, undeniably, starts leaning in your direction. That moment is not luck. That moment is the compound interest of every silent decision you made. Every morning you got up when no one was watching. Every hour you spent building when you could have been performing. Every time you chose depth over exposure. Every time you protected your energy instead of spending it on validation. every time you stayed quiet when your ego wanted to speak. All of it compounds, quietly, invisibly, until suddenly it's not invisible anymore. This is what Machiavelli understood at the cellular level. Power, real, lasting, unshakable power, is not seized loudly. It is cultivated quietly, over time, with patience that most people simply do not have. The people who cannot wait, who need the result before they've done the work, they will always be scrambling, always loud, always chasing something just out of reach. But you're going to be different. You're going to go quiet. You're going to build. You're going to wait, not passively but actively, working every single day in the direction of who you're becoming. And one day, one completely ordinary day, the world is going to turn around, and it's going to come looking for you. Not because you asked it to, because you made yourself impossible to ignore. Machiavelli didn't write for the comfortable. He wrote for the ones willing to see the world as it actually is, not as they wish it to be. If this video hit something inside you, if something in here felt like it was written for where you are right now, then you already know what to do. Comment the word silent below. Let me know you heard this. Let me know you're choosing the quiet path. Let me know you're done performing and ready to build. Subscribe to this channel, because everything we talk about here is designed to do one thing: take you from where you are to where you know you're supposed to be. No shortcuts, no noise, just truth, strategy, and the kind of thinking that actually changes lives. And watch the next video. Seriously, do not skip it, because what I'm going to show you next takes everything you just learned and makes it dangerous in the best possible way. The world is waiting for someone to rise quietly and arrive loudly. That someone is you. Now go build.